I thought a selfie with my ex wasn't a big deal. Now I'm alone and blocked everywhere. Like, literally everywhere. I'm Mila, 28, and I honestly never saw any of this coming. 3 years of marriage down the drain over what? A stupid picture? Colin always said I never think things through, but that's just his way of controlling everything. I swear. Colin and I met right after college when I was working this mind-numbing job at the local bank. Customer service rep. Basically glorified smiling and apologizing for things that weren't my fault. Colin came in to sort out some issue with his account, and he kept coming back with the tiniest banking problems ever. Super obvious he was into me. He was cute in that reliable, steady way. Not the type to make your heart race, but the type your mom would approve of. He worked as an assistant manager at Kingswood department store. Nothing fancy, but he was on track for promotion. We moved fast, engaged after 8 months, married 6 months later. Everyone said we were perfect together. His calm to my spontaneous, his planning to my living in the moment. We scraped together enough for a down payment on this cute little starter home in Oak Ridge. Nothing special, but it was ours. The first 2 years were good, I guess. Movie nights, weekend trips to the lake, the whole settling down package. Colin was always hustling for overtime, picking up extra shifts for our future fund, as he called it. Future this, future that. Sometimes I wanted to scream, what about now? I started feeling this, I don't know, emptiness. Like, is this really it? Work, home, weekends with Colin's family, Netflix, repeat. My friends from before, the fun ones, were still going out, traveling, living. Meanwhile, I was discussing paint colors for the guest bathroom and watching Colin stress over our retirement accounts at 30. I mean, seriously? My Instagram feed was just other people having actual lives while I was posting about homemade lasagna and our new patio furniture. Talk about boring. Then Facebook did that thing where it shows memories, and up pops a picture of me and Jared from senior year. Jared Thomas. My first real boyfriend. The wild one. The one who convinced me to skip school and drive 3 hours to see a concert. The guy who knew how to make life exciting. Before I knew it, I'd clicked on his profile. Single again. I didn't think twice about accepting his friend request that came 20 minutes later. Colin never got why I needed more friends, more connections. We're building our life together, he'd say, like that was supposed to be enough. He'd come home exhausted, want to talk about boring stuff like refinancing or whether we should switch insurance companies. Meanwhile, I'd be on my phone laughing at something Jared commented on one of my posts. That's when the eye rolls from Colin started. The sighs, the "are you on Facebook again" comments. Like he was my dad or something. When the email about our 10-year high school reunion came, I felt this rush of excitement I hadn't felt in forever. A chance to dress up, to be seen, to reconnect with people who knew me before I became someone's wife with a mortgage. Colin couldn't go, claimed he couldn't switch his Saturday shift, though I think he just didn't want to. Have fun, he said, in that tone that wasn't really sincere. Just don't have too much fun. As if he was making some kind of joke, but we both knew he wasn't. I spent 2 weeks planning my outfit, lost 5 pounds, got my hair highlighted. When I walked out in my dress the night of the reunion, Colin barely looked up from his laptop. "You look nice," he said, then went back to whatever spreadsheet was apparently more interesting than his wife looking smokin' hot for the first time in months. And in that moment, I felt this little spark of something dangerous. Like, maybe I didn't mind that Colin wasn't coming. Maybe I wanted a night where I wasn't just Colin's wife. Maybe I wanted to remember who Mila was before all this responsible adult stuff took over my life. "Don't wait up," I told him as I ordered my Uber. He looked up then, finally, a little crease between his eyebrows. "Text me when you're heading home?" he asked. I nodded, already halfway out the door, already feeling more alive than I had in months, already wondering if Jared would be there, and what he'd think of me now. Already forgetting to care what Colin would think about any of it. The high school gym looked exactly the same, just with fancy lighting and a DJ booth where Coach Wilson used to make us do suicide drills. I spotted my old squad the second I walked in, Tara, Becca, and Lexi huddled by the makeshift bar, already 3 drinks in by the looks of it. For a second, I felt self-conscious. Did I look as married and boring as I felt? But then Lexi squealed and ran over. And suddenly I was wrapped in hugs and compliments about my dress and my highlights and how I literally haven't aged a day. 2 vodka sodas later, we were caught up on divorces, Tara, kids, Becca had twins and promotions, Lexi was crushing it in pharmaceutical sales. Nobody mentioned Colin, which was fine by me. It felt good to just be Mila again, not Mrs. Colin Andrews. I was mid-laugh at one of Lexi's work stories when I felt a tap on my shoulder. And there he was, Jared, looking even better in person than in his profile pics. That same crooked smile that used to make me weak at 17 still worked at 28. Mila Reyes, no way, he said, pulling me into a hug that lasted just a second too long. I was hoping you'd be here. I tried to act cool, but inside I felt like my high school self again. It's Andrews now, actually, I said, flashing my ring out of habit more than anything. Jared raised an eyebrow. Lucky guy? Is he here? Working, I said, suddenly not wanting to talk about Colin. But it's good to see you. What have you been up to? That kicked off 2 hours of nonstop conversation. Jared was between jobs, again, classic Jared, but had stories about bartending in Miami, a startup that almost made it big in Austin, a road trip to Alaska. His life sounded like an adventure movie compared to my boring slice of suburbia. We kept getting drinks, moving closer as the music got louder. I noticed my friends giving me looks, but I ignored them. I was just catching up with an old friend, right? Remember that time we drove to see the Fray in Chicago? Jared asked, his hand casually resting on the wall behind me, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Your parents thought you were at Becca's for a study group? I laughed, feeling the vodka warming my cheeks. Oh my God, we were so bad. Colin would die if I did something like that now. Colin sounds like a buzzkill, Jared said with that smirk. The Mila I knew was up for anything. I still am, I protested, though even I knew that wasn't exactly true. When was the last time I'd done something spontaneous? Something just for me? Prove it, Jared challenged, pulling out his phone. Take a selfie with me for old time's sake. Show this Colin guy you still know how to have fun. Before I could think too hard about it, we were posing together, Jared's arm around my waist, my head against his shoulder. A familiar position from a dozen high school photos. I felt a little thrill as he posted it immediately, tagging me with the caption, "Reunited with my favorite prom date, class of 2015 reunion, some things never change." You're still trouble, I laughed, but I didn't untag myself. Didn't even think about it, honestly. I was having too much fun remembering what it felt like to be desired, to be interesting, to be seen. We danced after that, and maybe we were standing closer than old friends should. Maybe his hand stayed on my hips a little too long. Maybe I didn't care. When the lights came up at midnight, I was surprised at how fast the time had gone. Jared walked me outside while I ordered an Uber. We should get coffee sometime, he said. Catch up properly without all this noise. I'd like that, I said, and we exchanged numbers. Just as my Uber pulled up, he leaned in and kissed my cheek, dangerously close to the corner of my mouth. Still the most beautiful girl from Jefferson High, he whispered. I floated home on a cloud of nostalgia and validation, checking the photo on Facebook and smiling at the comments already rolling in. It wasn't until I walked in and saw Colin asleep on the couch, laptop still open to our budget spreadsheet, that reality started to creep back in. I carefully closed his computer and draped a blanket over him, feeling a strange mix of affection and resentment. I didn't wake him. Didn't tell him about running into Jared. It wasn't a big deal anyway, just a fun reunion night. Just a stupid selfie with an old friend. What could possibly go wrong? I should have known something was off when Colin was actually cooking breakfast the next morning. He never cooks breakfast on Sundays. That's our sleep-in day, our lazy pancakes at noonday. But there he was, fully dressed at 8 a.m., methodically flipping bacon like it was any other workday. Morning, I mumbled, head still foggy from last night's drinks. You're up early. Colin didn't turn around. Had trouble sleeping. I poured myself some coffee, trying to ignore the weird tension in the room. The reunion was fun. Lots of people asked about you. That was a lie. Nobody had asked about Colin. Most people didn't even remember I was married. I'm sure they did, he said, his voice flat. He set a plate of eggs in front of me with a little too much force. Did you have fun with Jared? My stomach dropped. I tried to keep my face neutral, taking a slow sip of coffee. Oh yeah, I ran into him. It was nice catching up with everyone. Everyone. Colin finally looked at me, and his eyes were colder than I'd ever seen them. Interesting that the only person you took a romantic couple's photo with was your ex-boyfriend. It wasn't a romantic photo, I said, feeling my defenses rise. It was just a selfie, Colin. We were just remembering old times. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal, he repeated, turning his phone screen to face me. There it was. Jared's post, with me looking flushed and happy, his arm wrapped possessively around my waist. The comments underneath were what made my heart race. You two still got that chemistry. Some couples are just meant to be. The prom king and queen return. Get it, Jared. And worst of all, Jared's reply to someone asking if we were back together. Let's just say the night was full of possibilities. It's not what it looks like, I said automatically, though even I could hear how pathetic that sounded. Then what is it, Mila? Because it looks like my wife is cuddled up with her ex, who's implying something happened between you. Nothing happened, I snapped, anger rising to cover my guilt. It was just a photo, Colin. God, why are you being so controlling? I'm allowed to have friends. Friends? Colin's laugh was harsh. Is that what we're calling it? Because for weeks I've watched you glued to your phone, smiling at whatever he's saying. I've noticed you dressing differently, doing your makeup just to go to the grocery store. I'm not stupid, Mila. So now I can't even look nice without it being about some guy? That's real healthy, Colin. Don't turn this around on me, he said, his voice rising. If it was just an innocent photo, why didn't you mention running into him? Why haven't you mentioned any of the conversations you've been having with him? I stood up, appetite gone. I don't have to report every conversation to you. I don't question you about your female coworkers or friends. Because I don't have anything to hide. Colin shouted, finally losing his composure. Because I respect our marriage enough not to flirt with my exes online. I wasn't flirting. You're overreacting to a stupid picture. Am I? Colin's voice dropped dangerously low. Then let me see your phone. I clutched my phone tighter, panic fluttering in my chest. There were dozens of messages between Jared and me. Nothing explicitly inappropriate, but definitely friendlier than Colin would like. Lots of remember whens and inside jokes and late-night texts that would look bad in this context. No, I said firmly. I'm not letting you invade my privacy because you're insecure. It's not insecurity when there's actual evidence, Mila. How would you feel if I was taking cozy photos with Madison? Madison, his college girlfriend he dated for 3 years before me. The one he almost proposed to. That's different, I muttered. How? How is it different? It just is, I shouted, frustrated because I didn't have a good answer. Look, nothing happened, nothing is happening, it was just a reunion and a stupid selfie. If you can't trust me, that's your problem. Colin stared at me for a long moment, then shook his head. No, when you start acting untrustworthy, that's not my problem, that's our problem. He grabbed his keys and wallet from the counter. I'm going to my brother's. I need to clear my head. Maybe you should think about why a stupid selfie was worth risking our marriage over. The door slammed behind him, and I was left alone with my half-eaten breakfast and the knot of guilt in my stomach. I immediately checked my phone, seeing 3 new messages from Jared. Had so much fun last night. Can't stop thinking about you. Coffee tomorrow? I hesitated only briefly before typing back. Coffee sounds great. The bean at 1? I told myself I was just going to clear things up, tell Jared to cool it with the comments. But deep down, I knew I was crossing a line. I just didn't care. Colin was overreacting, and if he was going to accuse me of something, well, maybe I'd give him something to really worry about. When Colin came home that evening, we barely spoke. He slept in the guest room. I told myself it would blow over in a few days, just a bump in the road, nothing I couldn't handle. Coffee with Jared turned into lunch. Lunch turned into, let's grab a drink sometime. One drink turned into regular meetups over the next 2 weeks. I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong, we were just talking, just friends catching up. But I also made sure to delete our text threads every night. Made sure to say I was meeting the girls whenever I went to see him. Made sure my wedding ring was firmly on my finger the whole time, as if that magic circle of metal somehow made everything innocent. Colin and I were still barely speaking. He'd started working even longer hours, coming home after I was already in bed. The few times we did talk, it was about bills or groceries or other surface-level stuff. The harder he pulled away, the more I leaned into my friendship with Jared. Why shouldn't I have someone who actually wanted to talk to me? Someone who made me feel alive? He still giving you the cold shoulder? Jared asked, sliding into our regular booth at Riverside Cafe. It had become our spot, far enough from my work and our neighborhood that I wouldn't run into anyone I knew. I nodded, stirring my iced tea. Going on 3 weeks now, it's ridiculous. Because of one photo? Jared's hand covered mine on the table, and I didn't pull away. Sounds controlling, if you ask me. It's not just the photo anymore, I admitted. He knows we've been texting. He doesn't know we're meeting up, though. Jared's thumb traced circles on my hand. And why is that, Mayla? If we're just friends catching up, why the secrecy? I pulled my hand back, suddenly uncomfortable with the question. Because he wouldn't understand. He'd twist it into something it's not. Or maybe, Jared leaned forward, he'd see exactly what it is, and you're not ready to admit it to yourself. And what's that? I asked, my heart speeding up. That there's still something between us, that there's always been something between us. His eyes locked with mine. You can't tell me you don't feel it too. I should have left then. Should have paid for my tea and walked out. Should have gone home to Colin and come clean about everything. Instead, I heard myself say, maybe I do. The smile that spread across Jared's face was triumphant. Your husband's a fool if he doesn't see what he's throwing away. What I chose that day was another drink, then another. What I chose was letting Jared drive me home in his car, windows down, music blasting like we were teenagers again. What I chose was lingering in his parked car outside my house, knowing Colin wasn't home, knowing I was playing with fire. I should go in, I said, not moving. Should you? Jared's hand found mine again, then moved to my cheek. Or do you want to come to my place? No pressure, just to talk. Get away from all this for a while. I glanced at our darkened house, thought about going in alone again, lying awake until Colin came home smelling of store inventory and cold dinner. I thought about the weeks of distance, the emptiness, the feeling that my life was slipping away in a parade of identical, forgettable days. Just to talk, I agreed, knowing full well that talking wasn't all that would happen. It happened 5 more times over the next 3 weeks, always at Jared's place, always with the excuse of girls' night or working late, or helping Lexi with her breakup drama. The lies came easier each time. Colin barely seemed to notice my comings and goings anymore. We were like roommates passing in the hall, exchanging brief, meaningless conversations about household chores and schedules. I was scrolling through Instagram in bed one night, Colin already asleep beside me, when my phone buzzed with a text from Jared. Miss you already. Can't wait for tomorrow. I smiled, typing back, same. Before realizing my fatal error, I'd left my notifications on. The preview had definitely flashed across my screen, visible to anyone looking at my phone. I glanced quickly at Colin, but his breathing was deep and even. Safe. I switched my phone to silent and made a mental note to be more careful. The last thing I needed was for Colin to see a suggestive text. Not because I was afraid of hurting him. We were practically separated already in my mind, but because it would mean drama and confrontation and decisions I wasn't ready to make. The next morning started like any other. Colin in the shower, me making coffee, both of us moving around each other in a choreographed dance of avoidance. I was fixing my makeup in the hallway mirror when I heard an odd sound from our bedroom. Colin's voice, but not talking to me. Yes, I'm still on my lunch break. No, she doesn't suspect anything. I froze, lipstick halfway to my mouth. Was Colin cheating too? A surge of irrational anger swept through me. How dare he? After all his self-righteous fury over a selfie, he was having phone sex with someone during his lunch hour? I crept closer to the bedroom door, straining to hear. I know, I just needed to be sure before Yes, I have the screenshots. All of them, going back 3 weeks. Screenshots? My blood ran cold. I glanced at my phone on the hall table, suddenly remembering with perfect clarity that I'd left it unlocked when I went to shower yesterday. Colin must have looked through it, seen the deleted text history with Jared, maybe even recovered it somehow. I just never thought Mila would do this to me. After everything, my name in his mouth removed all doubt. He knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to be making calls, collecting evidence, preparing for what? Divorce, confrontation, public humiliation? I made an impulsive decision. Grabbing my purse and keys, I shot a quick text to Jared. Need to see you now. Emergency. Then I left a note for Colin on the counter. We need to talk. I'll be home at 6. When I got to Jared's place, my fantasies about us started to crumble. The apartment I had romanticized looked shabby in the harsh daylight. Dirty dishes piled in the sink, clothes strewn across the floor, the lingering smell of last night's takeout. Jared answered the door in sweatpants, looking confused by my unexpected arrival. What's the emergency? He asked, pulling me inside. I was about to shower before meeting you for lunch. I paced his small living room, suddenly uncertain what to say. Colin knows, I blurted out finally. About us. I heard him on the phone talking about screenshots, evidence. I expected concern, maybe even panic. Instead, Jared shrugged. So? Isn't this kind of what you wanted? Now you can stop sneaking around. What I wanted? I stared at him incredulously. I never wanted my marriage to explode. Come on, Mila. Jared dropped onto his couch, patting the spot beside him. We both know your marriage was over, long before I came back into the picture. This just speeds things up. I didn't sit. Speeds what up, exactly? Us, he said simply. You leaving that boring life behind? Starting fresh. Isn't that what all this has been about? I felt suddenly cold, like someone had dumped ice water over my head. Was that what this had been about? Had I been unconsciously orchestrating my marriage's destruction? Using Jared as an escape route? I don't know what I want, I admitted, and it was the first honest thing I'd said in weeks. Jared's expression hardened slightly. Well, if Colin knows, you better figure it out fast, because you can't go back to playing house with him while sleeping with me. That option's off the table now. His words stung because they contained a grain of truth. I had been compartmentalizing, keeping my two lives separate, not making any real decisions. What do you want from me, Jared? I asked, suddenly exhausted. He stood up, crossing to where I stood. I want you to choose me. Leave him. Today. Come stay here until we figure out next steps. Here? I looked around the messy apartment dubiously. It's temporary, he said, sensing my hesitation. We could get our own place once things settle down. Travel a bit first, maybe. You always wanted to see California. It should have sounded romantic, adventurous. Instead, it sounded childish and impractical. Where would the money come from? Jared had been between jobs for months. Goodbye, Jared, I said quietly, and closed the door on his angry protests. In my car, I sat trembling, unable to start the engine. What had I done? What was I going to do? Colin knew about the affair, or at least suspected enough to be gathering evidence. Our marriage might already be beyond saving. And now I'd walked out on Jared too. When I got home, Colin was waiting. We had a painful, honest conversation where I admitted everything. And just as I feared, he asked me to leave. Not forever, he said, but for a while. He needed space to decide if our marriage was worth saving. I moved in with my sister Vanessa, alternating between hope that Colin would forgive me and despair that I'd ruined everything forever. Weeks passed with minimal contact, just practical texts about bills or mail. My phone buzzed one evening with a message from Colin. Can we talk? In person. Tomorrow at 7, our place. My heart raced as I replied a simple, yes, I'll be there. This was it, either the beginning of reconciliation or the official end of our marriage. I had no idea which, but I knew one thing for certain. That selfie with my ex hadn't been no big deal after all. It had been the first domino in a chain reaction that destroyed the life I'd built. And whether Colin took me back or not, I'd never make the mistake of underestimating small choices again. Because sometimes, the smallest decisions are the ones that change everything.